Greetings, brothers and sisters. Hunter Biden's infamous laptop confirmed in New York Times report. Here's an article from New York Times that they say, yes, it was his laptop. And so this shows you, because this is a New York Post is like a New York Post is considered like a rag, right? A gossip rag with page 6, on their front page today on page 6. They have 1, 2, 3, big giant colossal cursor knows, 4 articles about Kanye and Kim and Pete Davidson. just on their front page today. So page 6 and the New York Post aren't considered respectable journalistic hubs, but they're the only ones who have been covered the Hunter Biden laptop, which is an amazing story. It's an amazing story politically. It's an amazing story entertainment-wise, drug use. His son being a crackhead is an amazing story. That's just being left out there. The president has a crackhead son who used to be a vice president, was a crackhead son. He used his leverage to get jobs to support his crack habit where he didn't even have to go to the job, and he was smoking crack and getting paid millions of dollars by foreign companies who bought his father's influence through him. This is a huge scandal, corruption, all this, and the mainstream media is leaving it on the table. I got Joe Biden's weird stuff that he's talking about in terms of the Abuse Against Women Act, which I'll get to in just a moment. But this is, confirmation from the New York Times, which is a part of the handled media, the controlled media, and they're admitting that the laptop, the hard drive, that all this, there's all kinds of, not just the photos and videos, but all the corruption and the story itself where the guy is so messed up on drugs. He drops his laptop in the tub, and he just brings it to a shop and leaves it there. And some guy calls him and tries to get him to pick it up, and he forgets about it. And so the guy gives the hard drive to the FBI, because it's filled with all kinds of, compromising information. And it's right during an election, which this scandal would have, made it. There's no way JoJo would have got elected. And everybody, including the attorney general under Trump, decides not to, talk about it. Like right before the election. Like this should have launched a major investigation. This kind of treasure trove. And it wasn't the only laptop that Hunter Biden dropped off, because he was, dropping his laptop in tubs and all these, he had all these hard drives all over the city that he was so messed up on drugs. He drops it off at a computer store and he forgets all about it. And it's just an amazing story. And for comedians as well, right? Jimmy Kimmel's is still covering Trump. And he got his knees and serviced Hunter Biden being an amazing person for writing a book about his crack addiction. Ellen DeGeneres is giving her staff millions of dollars in bonuses as show ends, and there's more to do with her and Kim Kardashian. We'll get back to that. So JoJo Magooze passed a law which is the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women's Act. Now, on the surface, I worked in treatment centers for years with kids who were, teenage sex offenders, all this stuff, right? And I was in the counseling world, and I understand the value and am for anything to do with the end of abuse, right? Abuse is a bad thing, on all levels, right? Being an abusive system or person and, all these things that happen where people have power and they misuse their power, right? But JoJo Magooze isn't a champion for misusing power. This guy is a part of a group of people now who have glommed onto power and are abusing it on every level. You see abuse of power in our system with the media not reporting anything, remotely to do with the truth. You see it in social media that is, tamping down an alternate opinions to an abusive system. And we've seen the abuse of power throughout the Obama administration as well as the Bush administration. where they, had these illegal wars and what they did to other people, and then the way that they're presenting this war with Russia as Russia being, the villains, in something that America could have done something to prevent this war by not pushing for the Ukraine to join NATO, which is would have saved all these Ukrainian lives and all these things they're talking about. They wanted to put missiles and, they wanted to, pressure Russia. America's had it out for Russia because of their abuse of power in Syria, right? I mean, since the Russians interfered, war blocked them in Syria. So the sentiment of this bill, I'm all for, right? I'm all for these types of things, that protect, any vulnerable population. I just doubt JoJo Magoo's sincerity. That's what this is about. And he has weird ways of expressing himself here. And it seems like this is going to be a bill that ultimately invades people's privacy more. And so let's listen to his, bizarre speech here. So I'm in the editing portion of this video. I want to add something to this for a couple of reasons. One, because it's a point I haven't talked about in a while and maybe even never talked about in this way. The other is to avoid misunderstanding, which is unavoidable because the internet sucks and people have difficult understanding things that are presented in what I perceive to be a simple way of presenting this information in my videos. So what I'm talking about here is that they have a real legitimate problem and a vulnerable population that's suffering, right? So domestic abuse exists, and that's what this bill is about. And so they take a real problem. It's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans, it's the media, it's people in the truth community, right? They take a legitimate problem where there is a victim. And so there's emotion and support for the victim, right? And I'm also going to link this to Kim Kardashian because she's, it's a parallel story. And so they take a legitimate problem or they make up a problem in problem reaction solution. So the problem creates a reaction. It plays on people's emotional strings, right? It pulls on people's emotional strings. And then they present a solution that has nothing to do with the problem. In fact, oftentimes it's the same behavior. Like in this case, it's an abuse of power. And I haven't read the bill. I'm just, my sense of this thing, just because of everything I know about JoJo and the people who are in charge right now, this is what they always do. It's what everybody does, but they're doing it in a much more grandiose fashion. And so they have a legitimate problem. And if you go against their solution, they say you're for example, domestic abuse. Then they link you to the negative behavior, right? Like if you criticize America or you find some lies or faults in the whole Ukrainian story, they say to you, oh, you're a Putin lover, right? If you don't go along with the COVID agenda, you're a super spreader. Like they link you to the problem. Like you're part of the problem, you're causing the problem. And so that's how they get everyone to knuckle under and go along with their solution that they're presenting. So when I make fun of this or I make jokes, it's not because I'm making fun of people who are suffering from abuse. I'm mocking JoJo Magoo for, being a sleazeball and being dishonest and trying to push for this, whatever the agenda he has in this bill, which seems to be violating privacy and breaking up families and things as he goes through it, and his multiple gaffes that he has because he sucks at his job, right? So that's what I'm alluding to. So anybody who just stumbles into this YouTube channel and wants to sort of tag me in this thing, don't bother unless you want to end up in a comment video. But also you have hyper-vigilant truthers who are going to say, oh, you're not going far enough, because that's how it always is, because people suck. But this is my channel, and these are my views. And I am going to point out patterns here and also talk about how I doubt the sincerity of Kim Kardashian and JoJo Magoo. So let's start here with JoJo.
Let alone as being a national epidemic, something that government had to address. As a society, we literally looked away. We looked away. In many places, it wasn't a crime. And I recall how many times I was told in the prelude to writing the legislation, it's a family affair. You don't understand, Biden. It's a family affair.
He's talking about domestic abuse here.
When I began, along with others, to pursue this legislation.
So I'm in the editing portion. I make my comments, I watch the video, and I then, edit it. And there are many worse gaffes coming. But I just noticed this. So he says,
when I began, along with others, to pursue this legislation.
When I began with others to pursue this legislation, the word is pursue. Now, this isn't the worst gaffe. He does this constantly. But listen to it again. Now, he barely articulates what he's saying. And this is his job because he's not a policy wonk, right? He's not some brilliant politician. His biggest thing is talking to people, and he sucks at it, right? Like, he's supposed to be a lifelong professional politician. He's always made gaffes. He's always had, mind glitches. But here he can't even pronounce words. Like he butchers words throughout. He uses the wrong word often. But more often than that, he just can't even pronounce the words or articulate them. He's not articulate.
When I began, along with others, to pursue this legislation that changes this issue, we were told that we would literally be responsible for the disintegration of American families in major press. It wasn't just the wackos. It was in the mainstream press.
It wasn't just the wackos. I think he would consider me a wacko. It's not just the wackos, it's the mainstream press. The problem with this is, having worked in the system as a counselor and working with people in the social, people who are social service, that when the government gets involved in families, and the family can completely suck. The family can be abusive. I mean, these were, families I was working with where sometimes the parents were, sexually abusing the kids, whatever it was, right? That when you have a dysfunctional family like this, that the parents aren't good parents and they're doing damage to the kids. But then the government gets in there and they take the kids away, and the kids go into foster homes, then treatment centers, and before you know it, they're in prison or they're dead or whatever it is, right? Because the government doesn't love you. The foster parents don't love you. And, maybe their parents don't love them, are not capable of loving in many cases. And so it's a bad situation, but the government doesn't have a situation that's better, right? Like, that's the problem. You don't fix the problem by taking the kids away from dysfunctional parents or whatever it might be, right? You don't fix the problem by, the government doesn't fix problems on a domestic level. Like, maybe there's some stories where people say, oh yeah, the government interfered, the police got involved, and it got better. Well, that's great, if that happens, but it's very rarely that it happens. What you have to do is change the culture. I mean, change people on an internal level, which is what I do, the heartfulness system, that removes, through the cleaning process, these abusive tendencies and cycles of abuse, not just, in terms of one person or, like on a systemic level. And the transmission connects people to God and helps them be a higher version of themselves, right? So that's why I say only spirituality will save this world, is because we're manifesting this kind of behavior collectively because of all this is a warlike, look at all the violence and all the abuse that's in our movies, our TV shows. I mean, it's just what people are into, the violence in sports and just all of it, right? There's these animalistic tendencies, and and that's disrespectful to animals, because a lot of times the violence is completely unnecessary. It isn't just like, in terms of a predatory behavior. It is, something where violence for the sake of violence, right? And so, like, that's everywhere in the human system right now, and our materialistic, warlike culture is all about that, right? And you have to change that. The government isn't going to fix these broken families that the government is trying to, break families up and, make everything about material success and, all of it, right? The government is part of the problem. Like, it's not the solution. The government can't solve a problem that it's a part of, right? A cultural problem that it's a part of.
And we talked about creating shelters, give survivors a way out, because so many don't have a way out, and their children. By the way, the vast majority of children on the street with their mothers are there because she's a victim of domestic violence. And here's what they said, here's what they wrote. They said these shelters, providing shelters, was nothing more than indoctrination centers for women's liberation issues. Now, I can get you the articles. It's a fact.
He can get them to you. You know, you don't have to Google them and search for. He can get them. He can get them the articles. Now, you know, a shelter, like if a woman is in an abusive relationship with her, you know, her husband or whatever, boyfriend or something, and there is this shelter that provides them some protection. And JoJo Magooze is going to talk about here coming up how, you know, these women are, you know, they can't say anything to the police or whatever because they're scared of retaliation from their abusive man, right? You know, so that the shelter could be a good thing. I'm not against the shelters, but what he's saying about when you go to the shelter, there are going to be a certain political and social point of view that's going to come from the left. I mean, I know this because I worked in the system. Most of the people who are in this kind of psychological community are, you know, feminists, are liberal, and have their own dysfunctional agenda, right? And many of them, you know, they're going to put this on them. Like there was a great kid in one of my treatment centers, like in terms of his behavior. And he came from a Christian homeschooling family. And I was in meetings where there were people, and they were all liberals, who wanted to, like, you know, change the way that, well, he was abused by a pastor or like a reverend or something. So, you know, it was like a bad thing for him. Like it was, you know, this part of his religion caused his ending up like he maybe abused one of his siblings and things. But his behavior was really, you know, he had, you know, good behavior. And his parents came, and they were nice people. Like he wasn't one of my kids or my client. You know, I wasn't involved in his, you know, his case at all, but I knew of it. And I saw the parents, and they had a bunch of kids, and they were, you know, one of these Christian big families that was homeschooling, and a pastor, you know, which of course happens a lot now. It happens with priests and all these things. This was you know, some kind of like a Baptist pastor or something like that, right? You know, Protestant or something. And so, but this is, you know, one event in this kid's life, and the kid started to wear like, you know, wrap, like, you know, medallions. Like he was influenced already by the other kids who were in this prison-like environment, right? And the people who were in charge of his case were trying to, you know, get him away from, they wanted him to go to school, get him out of the family environment. And the homeschooling isn't what caused his abuse, right? It was a pastor. It had nothing to do with the parents. The parents were good parents. And the kid was going to go back into that home with a lot of knowledge that he got from all these dysfunctional kids. And he was going to definitely bring a different mindset. And they were trying to reprogram him, right? Trying to, you know, take him away from his parents' belief. And he was a well-behaved kid. Like he didn't have any, you know, sort of behavioral issues. One of the best kids in the place. He was in a group home. Like he had moved out to the less structured group home. And they were trying to, you know, indoctrinate him away from his parents' beliefs, right? As Christian homeschooling family. I saw this. Like you know, this is when I was really aware of these things. Started to become aware of these things, you know, because my kids were homeschooled, and you know there was some. I mean, we're not Christians, right? We do the heartfulness system, but there was influence of the Christian families who had, you know, pioneered the way to make it possible. They were ones who got the laws passed to homeschool their kids, and so you know there's all this Christian material my kids were learning from, and you know you share a sort of belief in God and these things with religious-minded people, and I saw the way they were being treated. And the parents were fine. The parents weren't the issue, right? The parents didn't have anything to do with the kid being in a treatment center, other than they trusted a pastor who was a creep, right?
Fact. Not a joke. Not a joke. And calling the police meant having to stand in front of your abuser, your significant other, your husband, whomever, and say he did it. And I used to say when I'd get heat on this, when I spoke, I remember making a speech at the Chamber of Commerce, and someone said, "You're going overboard here." I said, "Let me ask you, Jack."
Jack? Let me ask you, Jack. Come on, Jack. I know your name's not Jack, but I'm calling you Jack.
I said, if you had a 320-pound guy who could bench 400 pounds, stand in front.
Wait a minute, 320-pound guy who can bench 400 pounds? Is this what, like, his imagination is drying up here? Like, that would be somebody who's obese, right? Wouldn't be benching 400 pounds more than likely.
In front of you and smacked you. You're going to say he did it? Because you know he's going to come back. Look, there were very few police departments that had trained personnel. I mean, very few. I'm sure there were some, I just can't remember any of them. No, I really mean it. As a matter of fact, I don't think there were any special victims units in most of the police departments around the country before this legislation was written. Now there's programs that are on TV and for the...
See, this is a president whose party was, about to defund the police, and now crime has escalated. And it is also in terms of the relationship with the police, and I'm not pro-police or any of these things, right? I'm not a Republican, any of these, I'm not a Trumper, but, this party was like, let's get rid of the police. But now they're going to get into families, right? And what he's saying here is there's an abusive husband or lover or whatever it is, boyfriend, who the woman wants out but can't, is just scared of saying anything bad about him, right? So this is one scenario. They're going to be pushing this scenario, right? Like maybe the woman is like, she's conflicted because of her situation and love for the guy, right? Whatever's going on, stress in their lives. And she's not wanting to be a single mom and maybe needs whatever the man can give her, right? And so she's conflicted. And like they're going to push this agenda and, push her into getting rid of the guy or pressing charges or whatever it might be. Like this is, again, meddling with your view of things. Meddling with your, one-sided view of things. I mean, the government into family life. We're broke. Like, help by not printing $8 trillion in bailout money. That now people are under inflationary issues and can't feed their kids and things, which is just going to get worse. And so then this is an excuse to divide the families. Is there's going to be domestic quarrels over money now, right? Like this, one of the biggest issues is a lack of money in these types of relationships, right? That he's getting into. And so they're going to push for, getting the women in shelter, getting the kids, eventually in treatment centers or foster care, all these things, separating the family from the family, right?
The last 25, 30 years. No, but I really mean it. It mattered. That's what I mean about changing the culture. Look, and there were too few places you could go for advice or for help. Where would you go? And how many times? I remember.
And so advice or help, this is what I'm talking about. The majority of the people, and, I had coworkers who, and social workers who I liked and respected, but all of them were Democrats and liberals. I didn't think there was any Republican who I knew that was in this field, right? When I went to graduate school, it was a very liberal Santa Fe, New Mexico, with very liberal, very progressive people, right? So they're very almost extremist in some cases in their point of view. And so, and some of them are like the good kind of liberals who are now a part of this whole, and it's more government control and less family privacy and autonomy. Like the government wants to go into your lives and gives you, an evaluation. Like you go see a doctor now, right? And the doctor says right in front of you to your kids, do you feel safe in your home with the parent? Now, of course, if the kid's in an abusive situation, sure, that's a good thing. But what if the kid's just manipulative, right? And says something, and then the kid doesn't even know what that's going to happen. Next thing you know, kid's in foster care and they're like, oh, well, I wish I didn't say anything, right? What happens when a parent disciplines their kid in a, appropriate way and the kid doesn't like it and says, yeah, my dad or my parents are big meanies, and to the doctor, and it launches an investigation and, all kinds of things happen, right? And so, again, it's like the meddling in the family, especially when the family's already divided by devices, right?
Remember the biggest fights I had were the second time around with universities. With universities. Where do you show up? Where do you report this? Well, we don't want to. I mean, major universities. Not Podunk University, major universities.
Not Podunk University. It's great when JoJo is off script, which he is here.
It took time to change the culture, and you did it. You did it. There was no national hotline. I remember going, all kidding aside, there have been millions of women who've hit that hotline button.
Wait, do you believe that there's an actual button? You think there's a button that they're hitting?
I remember going, all kidding aside, there have been millions of women who've hit that hotline button. All the brave guys I had talked to, they'd say, Biden, you're overdoing this. And I'd say, tell you what.
Biden, you're overdoing it.
If somebody who was twice your size beating the living crap out of you, you're in the same apartment with them, how do you go and pick up the phone and call for help? Women would hide and say, I can't say where I am. I don't know. Help me.
It's great when he starts to whisper.
That's how we got Microsoft and others in this fight with us.
So I'm thinking he's talking about having open mics or whatever it is, right? Having the ability to like spy on people because the women won't come forward. So again, it's an overreach of power and invasion of privacy. Like, I don't know exactly, I haven't read the bill, but this is what he's alluding to. Like, why would he need Microsoft? If women can't call the hotline, well then, what way can they find a way to find out what's going on in people's homes, right?
To help us physically locate so the police could pick up where that call was coming from. That was
So that's spying on people's cell phone data, right?
Background when I first wrote the Violence Against Women Act in 1990. To provide more protection against domestic violence, stalking, sexual assault, to support survivors, and help them find ways out of their abusive situations. And say, why didn't she leave? Well, she didn't leave. She had no place to go, and she had 2 kids with her.
See, this is where there's like a real problem in victimization, and they're using victimization for a power grab, right? Like, you see this quite often. It's hard for people to say they're against the bill because it sounds like they're on the side of the abuser, right? That they're against any kind of help for domestic abuse. But when it's a power grab, when the government is taking more control and using victimization and somebody else's victimization or potential victimization for a power grab.
No money, nothing, no family to go to. Leave? I've been asked time to time, the reason I guess I got a little overwrought about this legislation early on. Not that I ever get overwrought. I literally, the most oft-asked questions for the first 3 years of the act was, well, why are you so passionate about this? Was your mother a victim of domestic violence? Was your sister or your wife, were they victims? Swear to God, that was the most oft-asked question of me.
He swears to God. He swears to God. He's like, he's not lying now because he's bringing God into this.
And I said, no, that's not the answer. I happen to be raised by a gentle, decent man who taught all of his children, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart.
He does. He means this from the bottom of his heart. He's not BSing you here.
Lisa, you know this. You knew my dad. My dad would say the greatest sin of all that anyone could commit was the abuse of power.
Look, he's got to tell there. This is where he used to grab his mask. He's developed this habit of grabbing this right here. He used to grab his mask and pull it, just as he said, abuse of power. And, they're running amok with power, presidential, writing these presidential acts and things like this. And he's literally, it's a tell here where he knows, because if he had such a great dad, he had such a moral upbringing, then he wouldn't have been such a plagiarist and liar in his first presidential run where he had to apologize, and say he wouldn't be dumb anymore. They'll do the meme here.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree. This is a guy who doesn't know much about anything.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
And so I've been dumb, right? because he, got caught lying, and he lied on his family. Like, he pretended his family was coal miners, and he took other people's stories and made it about his family. So he was just fictitious. He just took other people's speeches and lied about what his family did and all these things, right? I mean, constantly lying, constantly getting caught lying. Where CNN did a report in 2015 when he was the sitting vice president, so he wouldn't run against Hillary because they wanted Hillary, right? I showed you that whole thing where they talked about him being a liar and all these, weird ways that he was being with women and children when he was swearing them in as vice president, their congressional swearing ceremonies. I mean, it's just, and then his crackhead son and all the immorality of his life, right, personal life. And then he's talking about this like he's came from a great family, he's a great guy, right? And that's why he cares so much.
And the cardinal sin was for a man to raise his hand to a woman or a child. That's what this law has always been about, the abuse of power. Whether it ends in a rape or just a physical beat, it's about the abuse of power. So I believe that many of you in this room did that.
And it's a governmental abuse. The solution is a governmental abuse of power, right? And that's, that's what the concern is about any laws that are more invasive to, give the authorities more rights to invade people's personal, private social relationships, right?
That I believe that too. And the only way we could change the culture was by shining an ugly, bright light on it.
Shining an ugly, bright light? Well, why is the light ugly? Like when he's off script, he just, he can't put his thoughts together. He's shining a bright light on an ugly situation. But no, it's an ugly, bright light. Let's listen to that again. Like he just is a gaff magnet.
And the only way we could change the culture was by shining an ugly, bright light on it and speaking its name.
Speaking its name, Voldemort.
Make all the speeches you wanted. But until those women had the courage, and I remember in the back room holding, they said, it's going to be okay.
Wait, what? What are you talking about? Like, I'm editing right now, and I missed this the first time because it's hard to understand what he's saying. But I think what he's saying here, that he was in the back room with an abuse victim, and he's holding her, like you can see, look at his fists are closed, like he's holding her forcefully, and he's saying to her, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, right? Like, he's doing that to an abuse victim. I mean, let's watch it again here.
And I remember in the back room holding, they said, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. Can you imagine being among the first to stand before the whole damn world? And millions of people hear you recite how you were abused.
Look at how aggressive he's getting. He's getting like violent, hitting the podium and violent and angry. So remember this is JoJo Magooze. But these are happier days. Here's Kamala Harris before she quit because no one wanted to vote for her. There's Tulsi Gabbard who was after her. There's these other, there's Liz Warren and all these guys. One of these guys is probably Andrew Yang, right? And, this is when they had to break it up into 2 nights of debates because, or maybe the field was shrinking. But either way, JoJo Magooze made this epic gaffe here.
The cultural reckoning around the issue of sexual violence and harassment against women in America. Are there specific actions that you would take early in your administration to address this problem?
Yes, and by the way, it's one of the reasons, the first thing I would do is make sure we pass the Violence Against Women Act reauthorization, which I wrote.
So that's happened now.
I didn't write the reauthorization. I wrote.
And this is a lob question, right? Because this is something he was involved in the past. The act was repealed, and now he wants to re-administer it with more, power and clause in the act, right? In terms of its, getting into whatever is going on in families. So this is a reporter lobbing him a question that he wants to answer, right? But he's still, listen to what he says here.
Original act. The fact is that what happens now is that we, in fact, have to fundamentally change the culture. The culture of how.
And again, you're getting into people's internal beliefs, the culture, right? That means like, the way that people, orientate themselves to living in a social system, right?
How women are treated. That's why, as vice president, when I asked the president I could start the movement on the college campuses to say it's on us. It's everyone's responsibility. We do not spend nearly enough time dealing with. I was stunned when I did a virtual town meeting that told me 30,000 people were on the call, young people between 15 and 25.
There was 30,000. Is that a real number, JoJo Magoo? Look at him. But this is the great part right here.
And found out, I said, what do you need to make you safer on college campuses and on your schools? You know what they said? Get men involved. Engage the rest of the community. And that's when we started this movement on the college campuses to fundamentally change the culture. No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman in anger other than in self-defense, and that's...
So here it is. Here's the big moment.
Rarely ever occurs. And so we have to just change the culture, period, and keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it. It will be a big... No, I really mean it. It's a gigantic issue. And we...
Like, look at Kamala. Look at Kamala. And even Bernie, but Kamala's like... And she was so... I mean, her and Cory Booker have a couple... Her and Cory Booker have that other moment I've showed you where they're laughing when he makes the mistake of saying the only African-American woman senator, and she's saying she's the other one, right? And they're laughing at him. But he just said, we just keep on punching at it and punching at it.
Period. And keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it. It will be a big... No, I really mean it. It's a gigantic...
So this was a question they lobbed to him because he has this agenda. This is part of his, platform, and he's still look at him, right? He's still punching at it.
It took enormous courage. At the time, Majority Leader may remember, we both got criticized for wanting to make it public. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. That's why we held public hearings for this law. When there were senators and others who said it was too salacious for this to be public, for people to see. But I believed, and a lot of us did, that we had to let America know what was going on. Take the blinders off.
Take the blinders off, right? This guy's going to be a truth teller.
Make them look at it square in the eye, all the ugly side of it. Because I believed, as all of you did, that Americans are basically decent, honorable people.
But now we have to get in there and spy on them and, disrupt their families and whatever,
But they didn't want to get involved.
They're decent people who don't want to get involved.
Didn't want to get involved.
And so we as a government, we're.
How many times have you been in a crowded airport or in a circumstance where you see a man not physically beating, but abusing a woman? You just, I don't want to hear that.
I've never been there. I've never seen that. I've never seen that in my entire life. And I've done a lot of traveling. I've never seen a situation where you're just talking about that. In a public airport, especially now when there's all the security that there's army, there's police walking around with machine guns and, the TSA and all the ramped up security at an airport. I've never seen anything like that ever. And in public situations, right? I've never seen that. I've never seen even at a Walmart, right? I know it exists, but him saying that, right?
I don't know what to do. Well, I believe that if they could see the truth of what was going on, we could begin slowly to make change. And that's exactly what you all did. That's what happened. This law broke the dam of congressional resistance and cultural resistance.
So you think that the resistance was that people are for domestic abuse, right? That's what he's making this argument, that everybody who had resistance to this power grab, which, I can only assume this is what is happening here based in everything else that I know about this, this guy and the people that are controlling him, that they want to grab more of the power in your, personal existence, right? Spy on you, get you to report things and, interfere with your whatever it is, right? And the fact that there's no money left and they have to, ultimately, as soon as the inflation really hits, it hasn't hit yet, when it really hits, there's going to be outrage. And they're going to have to go to a martial law-like setup because people are going to be flipping out. And then when there's real hunger and disruption in services and people can't afford to live anymore and the economy just tanks the way it's, been tanking for a while, and whatever war, distraction, whatever things that they throw at it, the economy is still going to tank, right? And when that happens, they're going to have to go to martial law. Like, there's going to be no other solution because people are going to be, in a riotous state. And I can only imagine that this is about that. Like, this is the only reason for something like this is to prepare for that, right?
And it brought this hidden epidemic out of the shadows. Its introduction, it introduced our nation and so many brave survivors. Those stories changed the way America saw the issue. In a literal sense, it's hard to believe, even when I go back and think of how it started, where it was. As a practical matter, things began to shift. The legal and social burdens away from survivors and on to perpetrators and where they belonged. Made addressing general...
So you want to put more men in jail for this, right? Prison. In a system that's already overcrowded. A workforce that, there's places that are closing, like fast food restaurants, which I know for a fact that aren't open during, these are fast food restaurants. They can't get enough employees that they're closing early or not opening their dining rooms or whatever it is, right? They're going just to a drive-through model. This is where there's a lack of people out there. Maybe there's been underreported deaths or, why are people not working that they can't fill all these positions? And we've seen it, right? And then there's the inflation aspect. And, he's had everything to do with this.
Gender violence, a shared priority with a determined, coordinated response.
I got a bunch of other stuff to get to. I want to get to the gaff. People have been sending me this one big gaff. But there's this part here.
I'll never forget, Chris, I went to the family court when I was writing this. And the family court in my state's like many of yours. And I watched, because I was told this would happen, I watched a woman come up to the desk and say, I want to report my husband's beating me up. Why don't you have a seat over there?
Okay, so he's saying he was a senator when he was a senator in Delaware. He went to the city public court, and he sat by the front desk, and he was told that he would see this, and, miracle of all miracles, he saw a woman come up and whisper that she was being abused by her husband. And this guy is a known liar, right? He makes these stories up time and time again, plagiarizer. And so there's reasons why we wouldn't believe him, right?
Not a joke. Go back and check your family courts back in the day. That's what happened.
Go back and check your family courts. Okay, how do I do that? Explain how one would go about checking a family court to find that women were going up there and whispering to confirm this story you just told. Like how would one go about doing that, JoJo Magoo?
That's okay. You go over here. We'll get to that. No. I need help now.
Here's the big gaff. So this speech itself is JoJo's just a walking gaff, and it's best when he's off script. But a bunch of people sent me this and wanted me to comment on this.
So we established a new civil rights cause of action for those whose intimate images were shared on the public screen. How many times have you heard? I'll bet everybody knows somebody somewhere along the line.
None of you guys, but I bet you know somebody. I don't know anybody. JoJo Magoo, I don't know. I'm not involved in this, right? This is the kicker here.
That in an intimate relationship, what happened was the guy takes a revealing picture of his naked friend or whatever in a
His naked friend. What is JoJo talking about here?
What happened was the guy takes a revealing picture of his naked friend or whatever in a compromising position, and then literally, in a sense, blackmails or mortifies that person. Send it out, put it online, giving survivors real resources against abuse now.
So it's always been doing this? Like what? What about, I don't know, for example, Anthony Weiner, right? This happened to him.
Ex-partners and stalkers who seek to humiliate and hurt them.
All right, so we got to move on here. This was supposed to be brief. Now I'm like, I get backlogged, and before you know it, I have a over hour video, and I can't get to the things I want to talk about. We're going to get to the headlines here. I want to address the whole thing with Kim Kardashian taking the high road. But you have JoJo Magoo giving this speech and having this act. At the same time, the overwhelming story right now, the gossip Hollywood story, is about Kanye West being crazy, unmedicated Kanye West, and his harassment of this, gem of a human being who is Kim Kardashian, right? That's the storyline. Kanye's the villain. Kanye's the villain. And here, Ellen, the title of this Ellen video is Kim Kardashian is taking the high road, in quotes, in co-parenting. And so this is her being there's another article that has the same headline, that she's taking the high road. So I got a whole thing to do on that. But I want to show you these video clips quickly and then get into the other headlines.
I want to talk about what a good person you are because
You're such a good person. I want to talk about that.
There's so much going on in your life, and there's so much
Kanye, that's a shot at Kanye.
Everything that's going on with Kanye, and you are always protective of him, no matter what is happening, no matter what.
You were always protective of him. Look at this fake M&F-er. This is not a real face, right? This is not a real human face.
He's saying you always protect him because of the kids, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Woo! It's a beautiful thing. Woo! High road. She's taking the high road. Woo!
Thank you. I think that's just who I am, and I always saw such a good example in my mom and my dad. And
Yeah, your mom who, according to Kanye, pushed the sex tape out so your family could be famous, right? And your dad who got OJ off, one of the worst case of, your dad was OJ's lawyer, right? And, if OJ's story is true, and I don't even know I don't know what's true about any of this stuff, right? But, OJ is one of the worst cases of someone got away with domestic abuse in the worst possible way, and her dad represented him. And that helped the Kardashians. OJ launched reality TV. OJ's, infamous car chase. I mean, so many things came out of OJ's trial, including the Kardashians. And so OJ's the start of this cultural decline. His story. It's not a story about OJ. It's a story about the media.
no matter what goes on, it's the father of my kids. I'll always be protective.
That's why you dated a guy that crapped all over him and made fun of him for not taking his medication. Someone who's 19 years your junior, and you're going to use it to market it in your new reality TV show where you talk about how Kanye is saying your career's over, playing the victim. She wants this role, right? She wants the good guy role. This is her being cast as the good guy. I think in the whole Kardashian show, she is the one who gets the hero narrative. When she was in the fight with her sister, and she's the good one. And there's a lot of drama within the family. Again, I haven't watched the show, but my sense of it is that she's portrayed as the, again, she went back to get her law degree so she can help people who have been wrongly convicted get out of jail. She's got a whole, she's got a movement and a cause, and she's a faketivist and all these things, right? This is her fake narrative they're putting out there. And, clearly she be in the position of being a victim, there has to be a villain, and the villain is Kanye, right? I talked about the identified patient in my video yesterday.
Best So I just try to, as hard as it can be sometimes, I do try to ignore it and just try to do whatever's best for the kids.
This is why she's on this show, right? To create that narrative that whatever Kanye's doing, like she's doing things to provoke him, clearly, intentionally doing things to provoke him. And I just ignore it, and I just, I don't talk bad about it. I don't talk bad about him to the kids, and I'm just I'm holding the high road. I'm the, at the same time, JoJo Magooze is pushing this, similar narrative, where these bad guys are out of control and we got to control them, even though everything in our culture, including the sports like football and, obsession with sports, and then warlike, action movies for years have been about America being a militaristic, violent culture where, every man's supposed to grow up with the desire to defend his country, even though these are wars of aggression. And there's a pipeline between aggression and men and the military. And the military puts men through, particularly like the Marines, but all boot camps are ways of making men, the men who go through the boot camps, into violent killers. And then those violent killers come back home and nobody wants them because they've been warped by they've been indoctrinated and mind controlled by the, process of going into the military, right? And so, but then they're all violent, then they go out to a call of some ex-military. I just saw this weird movie with Shia LaBeouf. It's called Man Down. I'm not recommending it. But he was in the Afghanistan war, then he hallucinates an apocalypse, and then he goes and he, attacks his former wife, and he's trying to rescue his kid, and he's, completely deluded from PTSD, right? Like this is,
That's what I love about you, because
Take the high road.
it's
take the high road. She said it herself. Take the high road, right? And they're using this narrative because I'm going to show you the headline at the end of this thing. So I want to move forward.
That's what I love about you, because
Take the high road. Take the high road. Take the high road.
it is taking the high road, and
It is taking the high road. I'm confirming it. Like she took the high road when she can you get somebody to jump out of here right now, Ellen? Is there somebody hiding in here right now? You could get them to jump out and scare Kim and take the high road, right? Like, and take the high road after you were accused of being a horrible boss, an abusive person, or when you put out all those things for people to take one of your items for your merch, and one woman took two, and you put the camera on her, and you humiliated her, embarrassed her. Well, you're taking the high road. Then it's taking the high road. Ellen takes the high road. Kim takes the high road. Kanye takes the low road. Remember, Kanye also wore a Trump hat, so Trump is also the low road. But these guys are the high road. They're Hollywood celebrities, and they take the high road.
it's really hard sometimes, because I know there's stuff that people don't know, and then they judge whatever they see, and they don't know all the other layers.
Exactly, and what we see right here on the superficial level is Kim taking the high road. There's so many layers to Kim Kardashian. She's so deep. There's just all these nuances and all the things that people don't see, and they're just so judgmental. But everything you see with Kanye is true. Everything that Kanye's doing, he's definitely a villain. But Kim, like all this other stuff you don't see behind the scenes. But Kanye and Trump, everything they do, take it at face value. But the people that we want to have the hero narrative, there's all these things going on beyond the scenes that you don't know about.
Beneath it, and what's really happening. So
What's really happening? What's really happening to the plastic surgery you had to make yourself look different than you actually are? What are you hiding? What are you hiding with this Barbie-like, Bratz doll-like face?
But I also think sometimes these are like lessons. This was put in my life for a reason, and these challenges.
Oh, these challenges and these lessons, they put in my life for a reason, and they're good, and I'm going to become a better person.
And I just think I try to really, as hard as it is, I try to like sit still sometimes and say, okay, what is this lesson? What am I meant to learn from it?
What am I meant to learn from it? Maybe I can get a new show. Maybe I can put some merch out there. Maybe I can do a new the makeup line.
How can I just like get through it? And
How can I get through it? How can I make something of this and market it and monetize it?
This like challenge placed here in my life? I know that seems like super zen and like
It's super zen. It's solely zen. It's so zen. It's zen. It's zen. It's zen. Zen. And it's very zen. It's super zen. It's not at all like what I'm not a zen person, but like it's zen.
It's just really what I do, and I try
It's
to
what I do. It's what I do. You know, it's the kind of person I am. I'm super zen.
think like, okay, I have to get better at this. Or one of my things is I was like, I used to care so much about narratives and what's true.
I used to care about narratives, like I'm taking the high road narrative. Like I don't want that narrative because I don't care about narratives. I'm just going to be who I am. I don't care what people think. I don't care about the narratives, even though I do reality TV shows that are all about narratives. My new relationship with my new friend, Pete Davidson, narratives.
And what's not true and anything, any subject, you know? And it's really just, I just live my life the way that I think is.
Her whole existence is based in narratives, right? Is creating narratives and, you know, not being the person that she really is on the inside. That's why she's constantly getting plastic surgery, because she wants her appearance to be different than it actually is, right? She's deceiving. And so that's all about narratives, the Instagram, all these things. They're all about narratives. So let's go to this other piece here about Pete Davidson getting a tattoo or brand of her.
Hey, speaking of posting, you just went official with Pete on Instagram. So
Yeah, I don't care about narratives, so I post it on Instagram. I post all my stuff on Instagram, and I don't care about the narratives. I don't use airbrush or filters. I don't care about the narratives.
congratulations.
I guess
This is Instagram. Woo!
it's like not official until you post.
It's not official till you post. Woo!
What? It's
I guess
official.
it's not official
Until you post, it's
on
not real.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that
Yeah, woo! I don't understand this thing. Woo! Even though I created it. Woo!
do just to get it out of the way? Like it was, people were waiting to see that, or?
No, I have
a new show coming out, and I, good timing with Kanye the villain and my new relationship with Pete, and I want some people to watch the show and make more money and get more attention for myself and my family.
cutest pictures of us, and I want to be like, oh my God, we're so cute, and I want,
We're so cute.
but then I'm like, don't be so desperate, don't be posting so much.
Don't be so desperate. You're so desperate for attention. Wait, you haven't had enough attention in your life that you're desperate for attention. And you want more people to give you thumbs up. Oh, you're so cute together. Hey, you're so cute. You and this, creepy, ghoulish M&F-er, right?
I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do is. Like, I haven't dated
I don't know what the right thing. I'm dated.
since before.
I don't know what social media is about. I don't have like 12 publicists and all these people telling me what to do and how to promote myself. I don't know. I'm so clueless about how to promote myself and my new show. I don't even know. I wish I had like more people. I wish I had 100 people who were all experts in this thing. That's just a handful of like 15 or so. I wish I had 100 people to help tell me how to navigate what to post or not to post on social media, because I haven't dated. I've been with Kanye. Okay.
I don't know what the right thing to do is. Like, I haven't dated since before Instagram existed. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was always with Kanye when Instagram existed, so I don't know. I don't know what was Instagram. I don't know. I don't know.
What the rules are.
First of all,
She doesn't know what the rules are. I just wrote the rules. I just don't know what they are.
I just want you to be happy. You deserve to be happy. And
I just want you to be happy with your $1 billion that you made off of cosmetics and, exploiting a sex tape. I just want you to be happy.
and I'm happy that you're happy. That's all.
I'm happy that you're happy, because Pete Davidson's, you're going to have a life full of happiness with him. He's just good at long-term relationships.
It's my job as an interviewer to ask about the tattoo. Everyone said, because he posted this the selfie, sort of, right? And there's...
It's her job. She doesn't want to do it. She doesn't care about the tattoo. It's her job. She's a journalist.
They're reading into it saying that there's a tattoo that says Kim.
Yeah, he has a few tattoos, a few cute ones,
The cute ones. He's got some cute ones.
that he got. But this one is it's not, that one, the Kim one, isn't a tattoo. It's actually a branding.
It's a branding. I put it on him with a branding, like you brand cattle.
Like a branding?
He burned it on him, he branded it, with Kim. Like he's showing his love for me by branding himself. Kind of like they did in Nexium, Nexium, that cult. But this isn't a cult. This is family, and this brand is really cute. It says Kim, very cute Kim. It says on there. It's a brand like Nexium, but not not culty, but cutie. It's like a cutie.
Because, let me explain it. Because he wanted to do something that was really different. Because, like,
He's got all these tattoos of ex-lovers that he's had to copy and whatever. So he wanted to do something different. He's special. Like, he branded himself for me.
okay, first tattoo we got, I was like, oh, so cute. Thank you. Oh my God. So, second, whatever. I'm like, oh, that's so cute. But like, that's what tattoo people do, right? Like they get tattoos of what's going on in their life.
Yeah, and then they never regret it, right? But then when they really want to commit, they brand themselves. So he's got a brand. It's a brand to me. It's Kim. He branded himself. Like, he's my cattle now. Anyways, I want to come back to this, right? So this is all intertwined. The identified patient I talked about yesterday, JoJo Magooze passing this legislation, and she's with this non-medicating taking guy in Kanye who's, wearing a Trump hat, and then this guy who has a Hillary Clinton tattoo, and so now he's branded himself with Kim Kardashian because he makes good choices. This is Kanye West. He's got Ye. He's got 50 million followers and no posts. He's postless. So this is a meme somebody sent me. Just in, the Vatican has invited Chelsea Clinton, Dr. Fauci, New Age figure Deepak Chopra, and the CEOs of Moderna and Pfizer to speak at a May conference focusing on health and the soul. And it says, was Satan unavailable? That was a quality meme. Queen deeply upset that 3 out of 4 of her children got divorced, report says. No reason to comment there. Hackers help channel millions of anti-war texts to Russian people. Now, I should cover this separately. This is the Squad 303. I did a video on this. But these guys are spammers. And hackers was one of the reasons. Remember, Russia was supposed to have hacked Hillary Clinton's election with all their hacking and their hackers. And now they're using hackers against Russians, and it's okay, right? The behavior's okay because we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. That when the Russians did it to us, they're the bad guys and we're the good guys, so hacking's bad. But hacking's good when you spam Russian citizens, ordinary people who are using this app to spam and just send out random information to people who didn't request it, right? It's spamming. Trevor Noah responds to Kanye West attacks. It breaks my heart. It breaks his heart. He breaks, damn, here we go again. Like he said something about Kanye, and it seemed like to Kanye that he was a sellout, and Kanye addressed it. And damn, here we go again. Like he had no idea Kanye was going to react to his questioning Kanye's mental stability and throwing Kanye under the bus like he did in an unfunny way when he's supposed to be a comedian. And speaking of unfunny comedian, Pete Davidson is grounding as he backs out of his space mission with the Bezos. These are all the headlines today. Look, there's some kind of world market Illuminati evil eye staring at you as you get these new laws. And there's the cat butt. I don't know what's going on, the mushroom. Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson hit the In-N-Out after Kanye West drama. So they went to In-N-Out Burger because, they wanted to be seen out there. Hundreds signed petition to drop Kanye West as Coachella headliner. So they're trying to, censor him and cancel him and do all these things because he's obviously the villain. He's like Putin. I mean, he's like Trump and Putin. He shouldn't have a platform. And then here it is. Kim Kardashian taking the high road amid challenges of Kanye divorce. And so they're taking this, she said the high road. Kim Kardashian said the high road herself, right? Like Ellen was, alluding to it, but it was staged and it was like, preset questions. They were lob questions to create this narrative. When she was saying that she doesn't care about how people feel and the narrative, and then she branded herself with the high road narrative as her new lover is branding himself with her name. If you Google high road, Kim Kardashian takes the high road. Kim Kardashian is at the high road. Big high road here.
Kim Kardashian takes a high road. Yahoo News, high road. And so this is Kim Kardashian, the online high road. So high road is now being synonymous with Kim Kardashian. These are talking points, right? And they want you to think about high road and think about Kim Kardashian. And she says she doesn't care about narratives, but she's one of the most controlled, this whole family narrative that they have. And like she grew up in opulence, right? Paris Hilton was her friend, just before she was famous, she was her friend, right? Because they hung in the same circles. The kind of money they came from, and now the kind of money they have, they're billionaires. She's a billionaire, so is Kanye, and so is one of her sisters. Not the big one. So many people commented about me. But anyways, I had this long narrative to give, and again, this video got too long, and I'm doing outdoor projects now, and kind of tired. I gotta go make dinner. So I'll hopefully this. I'm gonna be covering this probably for a while, but I wanted to talk about this idea of the abuser as a victim, right? Everyone thinks about the abuser as an abuser, but what about the person that's the victim that's the abuser, right? And I've referred to that in other videos. I want to get into that in another long video. I can't do it now. But anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalaughs and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.